What is going through your head for that? Because even when I do anything long distance related, you're just having conversations with your own brain.
Yeah.
But what are you talking about for such a long period of time?
You know, because you're so right. So much goes on inside your own head.
There's no music, no,
not allowed anything like that. So it gets weird because like
raw dogging it.
I never thought about it like that. I literally raw dogged. I'm going to use that. I'll quote you. Just raw dogged the Yukon. There it is. And I love that you said that actually, because in your head, it's almost like you're flicking the channel, the TV channel. And every time you flick a channel, a bad thought could come in, or it could be a good thought. And you just want to make sure you flick the channel to some good thoughts. And I think it's so interesting that anything that motivates you, sometimes it can help, it can get you through an hour, 2 hours, but sometimes it can lose its potency. So sometimes you go, I'm going to swim, I'm going to get the record, and I'm going to contribute to sports science. But when a bear's tracking you and you're just like gushing blood, you're like, I don't care about the record. Mm-hmm. So then you think, wow, you know, my family, my friends have come out here, you know, they're supporting me. This whole thing will be wasted.
Fuck yeah, the thought of failure.
So that's
a big one.
Exactly. Yeah. So that'll get you through a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then you might think like, you know, theory, philosophy, Aristotle, Epictetus, the ancient Stoics, that might get you through. And then equally, I think this is so interesting because sometimes psychobiological model of fatigue, I'll keep this quite brief, but basically if me and you might went for a run right now, said, let's run for a marathon, 26.2 miles, 18 miles in, you'll be turning to me, I'll be turning to you, I'll be like, oh my God, my legs are on fire, my lungs are going to explode. And Tim Noakes basically coined this phrase, central governor theory, psychobiological model of fatigue, says the brain's a hypochondriac. And what it's doing is basically going, Mike, be careful. You deplete the muscle glycogen. You're overheating. You're not, and it's getting you to pull the physiological handbrake. It's self-preservation. It's stopping you from going to complete exhaustion. But what's interesting is all of a sudden, if we saw the finish line, there was a burger van, there was ice cream, you'd be sprinting towards it. And I'd be like, hang on, no, Mike. You know, 18 miles, you said you were done. And you see this all the time, that when you think you're done, the Navy SEALs call it the 40% rule. When you think you're done, you're actually only at 40%. Call it what you want, but it exists within all of us. And I think that's so interesting what you just described there, because those thoughts constantly come in, and that is the psychobiological model of fatigue. It's your brain being a hypochondriac to stop you from going to complete failure. And the best endurance athletes that I know of, Kipchoge being a great one, have a way of turning that voice off.
Is that something that is trained, or maybe people have a genetic advantage? You know, like people like Goggins, for example, he has this ability to just completely ignore those signals that he's getting.
Yeah, I love that you asked, and actually, a friend of ours, Chris Williamson, recently, I loved, we were chatting, and he said something brilliant, because we were talking about when those thoughts come in, David Goggins, who I'm a huge fan of, combats that with aggression. So he's like, what are you doing? You know, you don't know me, son. Like, oh, stop being such a wimp, man. And I found, in my experience, I've tried that in the past, but, you know, it doesn't work for me. You know, I am a kid from Grantham in the countryside, you know, so me going, you don't know me, son. It doesn't work. It doesn't feel right. I'm not a Navy SEAL. It doesn't feel right. And so I was like, you know, why is, and then equally like Jocko Willink, like you hear these like just amazing men, and they are, you know, masculine in the greatest sense of the term. Whereas one thing that I found is more Emil Zatopek. Do you know anything about Emil Zatopek? So Emil Zatopek was one of the greatest endurance runners ever, Helsinki Olympics. He won the 10,000 and the marathon. I believe I've got that right. I hope I'm not misquoting that. But anyway, the story was he'd never run a marathon before in his life. And he just turned to his coach. He's already won one gold medal, Olympic gold medal. And he turns around and he goes, I think I'm going to run the marathon. And his coach was like, nah, Emil, like you've never run a marathon before in your life. He goes, no. He goes, it's okay. Who is going to win? And they were like, oh, it's the British guy, actually. And he goes, okay, I'm going to sit on his shoulder. And at the end, I'm just going to go bloop and I'm going to win. And they're like, it's not as simple as that. It's a marathon. And he goes, no, it's okay. But he just loved running. So he starts running. And there's this documentary, and I need to send it to you. It's amazing. The British guy was old now, and he's sort of reliving this story. And he says he's running, and Emil Zatopek turns upon his shoulder. And Emil turns to him and he goes, I have never run a marathon before. Is this quick or too slow? And the British guy, who's older now, goes, and I thought to myself, you bugger, I'm gonna trick you here. So I turned and I said, no, this is far too slow. We're gonna get caught. And Emil just turned to him and went, okay, thank you for advice. I see you would finish. And it just ran ahead and won. But the reason I tell that story is because Emil ran with such a sense of gratitude and happiness. And date night for him, his wife was an amazing Olympic javelin thrower. Date night for them is they would go out, she would launch a javelin and he would run and pick it up like a dog and bring it back on a stick and do intervals. And that was date night. And so I'm like, what's interesting is if you turn up on the start line, who do you fear the most to run against? Is it maybe a Goggins or someone who's like, just there going, oh, I hate this, I've gritted my teeth, I've got through this like training camp, or an Emil Zatopek who just loves to be there?
Yeah.
And for me, I've always resonated a bit more with Emil, that people will be like, on the GB swim, when we were 100 days in, my tongue's falling off, jellyfish stinging my face. And people were saying to my girlfriend, they were like, oh God, how is he? Is he coping? Is he hanging? And Hester just went home and was like, I've never seen him so happy. He's having the best time. So I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And sorry, Chris had this brilliant term as I told him that story. And he said, Ross, I see what you mean. It's like trying to put petrol into a diesel car. Like, which one are you? There's no right or wrong answer. Just know what fuel you run best on and what car you are. I love that.